Welcome to Keiser Voices, the story of success, brought to you by Keiser University Graduate School, here where the academic world meets personal triumph. Join us today as we dive into the captivating tales of success.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Keiser Voices. We are continuing our conversation about Black history today with our guest, Associate Dean Nyoka Topping. Dean Nyoka, thank you for coming.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
We appreciate it too, because we want to take a look at other aspects of Black history that we haven't really talked about in our other episodes. And that's really looking at Caribbean heritage and Black history and how celebrating culture, tradition, and legacy is all still a part of Black history and maybe not talked about as often. Looking at you specifically, there was a specific reason why you and I had this conversation. It is because you are Caribbean. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
I'm originally from Jamaica. It's a very small island in the Caribbean, with a very big impact and punch. Our food, music has influenced the world all over, and I'm proud of where I'm from. Case in point, my accent will come in and out in conversation here or there. However, as influential as my country is, it it has a very close dynamic or relation to Black history as well as Caribbean history in a whole. Jamaica as a country, we have dominated areas such as athletics, when it comes on to food, our food is very popular. Music, we have a lot of influential people from the island. However, we are known predominantly for other things besides, food and the sand and the beach and so forth. But I'm very proud to say that I'm an American or Jamaican American. That's how we tend to refer to ourselves. I've lived here for over 20 years, and I do go back and forth. So it's a big thing for me, or to hold my country close to me. We celebrate in every way, shape, or form. So, case in point, why I know you chose me, because I do talk about my country a lot, even though I live here. Um, but yeah, it's a small country where we have a phrase where I'll say it in Patois because that's our dialect. We little, but we talawa. So we are small, but we have a very big impact, big punch, so to speak. Very dynamic in things that we do.
And I should point out for listeners that Dean Nyoka and I's relationship goes back over 10 years. So we've had a lot of conversations over the years, which made sense to have this episode and especially to have you on it. So when
Thank you.
Look at the Caribbean history, and specifically, I know you're talking about Jamaica because that's where you're from. But when we also incorporate Black history, why is it important to celebrate both Caribbean history and Black history?
It acknowledges our contribution to building and maintaining the growth of the U.S. So when you acknowledge the Caribbean and the impact it has on Black history, in my perspective, you can't see one without the other. Because as a Jamaican American, I'm also considered an immigrant, and we help to build the U.S. to make it a little bit more dynamic, to grow, just as we have done for our homeland in Jamaica, we have done for the U.S. So now we call it home, but it has grown. So Caribbean history and Caribbean heritage is very important to us because although I do not live in the Caribbean or in Jamaica, as a whole, the entire Caribbean has contributed to build the U.S. even more, to make it more dynamic and more diverse, and to what we know it as our cultures, different cultures from different countries has influenced a lot of things here, especially in South Florida, where the Caribbean diaspora is very, very large. It's unique. We have so many countries here, so it's very meaningful for me to celebrate my heritage, the history of it. We help to build the Caribbean countries as well as here in the U.S. So our contributions show up in small ways, but it does show up nonetheless.
And a lot of those stories aren't even well known. I heard a story that I'd never heard about before, and it was a fellow Jamaican, an older gentleman, and he was talking about World War II history.
Mm-hmm.
And when the soldiers were deployed, we know about Rosie the Riveter and the movement to put women in the workforce. But what isn't spoken about too often is there were a lot of Jamaican and some other Caribbean countries where they asked those people to come over and maintain the farmlands
Yes,
and to help
yes,
support the troops and help support
yes.
America while this war was going on. And that's not something too often spoken about. So, like you said, it's important
It's
to
not often,
acknowledge all of this.
and it still happens to this day. We still have a lot of fellow countrymen who come over and work the farmlands. It's called a farm program that they will leave homeland and come here and work for a certain amount of time, months working in the fields to help support the growth of the agricultural industry. And then they go back home. So they probably do a few months here. I know it's big in Canada, but I know it's also big here where there is a farm exchange program
Mhm.
where they come over and they work. We have a lot of Caribbean um, leaders, I should say, for lack of a better term, who have contributed to the growth of the US history, the Black history. For example, like Marcus Garvey, he was actually just pardoned. He is one of our heroes, our national heroes in Jamaica,
Mhm.
and he was actually arrested here for his crimes as it relates to freedom, ending slavery, wanting. We have his mantra was about the Black Star Line, and that's a ship or boat that he created that was about repatriation and taking people back to Africa. So I don't want to use those words, so I won't go into that detail. But I know President Biden actually, before he left office, pardoned him. So he was one of the pardons that he did. So we have him as a national hero then, but he's actually a freedom fighter here, and he's a part of Black history here. A lot of times, if you ask certain Americans if they know about Marcus Garvey, as much as he
Mhm.
was a Jamaican, a lot of people thought he was American because he was locked up here and arrested here at that time. But that's somebody who we're proud of, and that's also a part of our history, our very big history, because of who he is and what he represented.
When we look at your heritage and where you are professionally and your own personal journey, how has that been part of that story?
I grew up hearing a poem by Henry Longfellow. Heights of great men reach and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upwards through the night. This is a message that actually pushed me as an individual to work harder, to be the best that I can be, to accomplish um, not only for me, but to positively impact my family, my workplace, and my community at large. Um, Education is very big. Most Caribbeans, it's a big deal for them to go to school to achieve certain things. I am a first generation graduate, college graduate. I soon to be a first generation PhD graduate. So it's a big deal for us. It has influenced my personal journey as wanting to still move forward while obtaining the American dream, but still never forgetting where I'm from, maintaining my history and my heritage, my Caribbean ethnicity. Everything about me is Jamaican. um, and it has pushed me to just my work ethic, the way how I am. I know I lived in Jamaica, worked in Jamaica, so coming here, I have a sense of dedication, professionalism, and just determination and to do and achieve things and always try to be the best and maintain a positive attitude.
That's amazing. And I know your students appreciate how hard you work for them. We hear it from them
Hmm.
all the time, in student services. So I know they're so appreciative of that. Is there a tradition or practice that is really important to you that you hold dear and you continue to practice today?
Uh, Cooking my traditional foods. Food is a big deal for me. I'm a foodie. I have a background in culinary, so it's a really big thing for me. And interacting with cooking and engaging in that practice and introducing it to my colleagues or strangers who have never tried certain things, traditional items, it's always a pleasure. It gives me great joy to have to share that with everyone because I enjoy cooking and I enjoy my dialect too. So I like to introduce different unique items, not just a traditional jerk or maybe a curry chicken, but something that's different that they've never tried, or a cake or an item. So cooking is a traditional items. I hold my traditions dear. When it comes down to the holidays, there's certain things
Mhm.
that we make and prepare so that I still practice wholeheartedly. And when I moved here, one big thing for me was to never lose my accent. So I hold that dearly and I still speak it very strongly today. I will say that I try to speak it very slowly so it's easier understood, but it's broken English. It's just that we speak very fast when we're speaking in our dialect. So it always seems like if it's harder to understand, but it's English. We just leave a letter off the front or the back of the word or the end of the word. So that's really what it is. But those are the things that I hold dear to me, and those are the practices that I still practice today.
Is there, or what is the most valuable lesson you've learned from your heritage?
Uh, a valuable lesson. The labor, the labor of our hands has the ability to build or destroy. Pretty much what I mean is that you can choose to build and leave a mark that is also impactful, influential. Um, Words have power as well. That's something that a valuable lesson that I've learned over the years. So you speak things into being, your thoughts, your actions, your attitude determines your path, your outcome. So for me, as a Caribbean native and heritage, words have power because they help to build you. And like I said, your hands have the ability to destroy or build. So I always want to make sure whatever I touch, um, whatever is taught to me, whatever I learn, I'm able to share with others so I can help to build and continue that growth of passing on tradition amongst the younger generation and my community at large.
That's amazing. Um, since you are a student and you said so yourself, so you're actively in your PhD, you're
Hmm.
working on your dissertation phase of that doctorate program. What piece of advice would you give to maybe somebody who, is also from the Caribbean and considering like this higher educational path, or really anybody who's looking at like this journey as well? Like, is there a piece of advice, something some you wish somebody would have told you when you started out your program?
There are many things I should say, but one thing that stands out to me, um, write your goals down. What is it that your intentions are that you're wanting to achieve so that you can keep that timeline? It's not a journey for everyone, but it's your journey. So you make it as how you want it to be. Um, Everybody's path will be different. Some people start a journey, they're finished 2 years, 3 years once they finish all their classes. Some people they take the full, 7 years. But don't deter yourself from the goal that you initially started with. For me, I think if someone had told me when I started to keep a timeline, um, to keep me motivated, then that would have probably helped me to finish a lot sooner. But I also like to tell people, find out what your graduation date is. Write that date down on a piece of paper, because I was once told this, and stick it onto your laptop, stick it onto your phone, put it as a reminder, so you know you have a goal that you're working towards to achieve. Um, as Caribbeans, we are promoted, or it's indoctrinated into us some in some way, shape, or form that we have to go to school. It's not a journey that you cannot achieve. Do it at your own pace, do it at your own time, because it can happen, and whether you choose to do it in the Caribbean or you choose to do it here or another country, another school, you name it, it's still an achievable goal, it's an achievable dream. It's not something that it's hard to achieve, because I want to say that the idea of earning a PhD, it's so far-fetched for some people, but it's not a dream that is not attainable. It's normally presented in a manner that it's not attainable, but it's truly something that you can be, because I did not have that goal initially. I thought I would stop with my master's, and then, a light bulb went off and I decided to stick to academics, and I'm like, perhaps I can do it. So let's start it. But start your journey when you're ready. Write your graduation date down, write your goals down so you know exactly what you're working towards, because it's something that you can achieve. And then you'll be a part of that 2% of the world that actually has a PhD.
That's amazing. And we wish you the best of luck as you finish out your PhD program, although you don't need it, um, you and I have talked extensively about where you're at in your process and what you're working on. And I can't wait to see your research come to fruition as you wrap up your program. Thank you, Dean Topping, for being here with us and sharing a little bit about your culture and Caribbean heritage as we look to celebrate Black History Month.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm glad I was able to share.
And if you guys have enjoyed this conversation, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow the Keiser Voices podcast as we finish in February talking about Black History Month and the importance of celebrating it. So we look to catch you guys on the next episode, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for journeying with us today on Keiser Voices, the story of success. As we close this chapter, remember, every story has its next page.